Hello, I'm Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology. I'm glad you joined us today. This is the last lecture on Descartes in our little course here called Faith, Knowledge, and Reason. And we're dealing here with, of course, the philosophical presuppositions, if you will, of theology. Last time we talked about the mind-body problem as it develops in Descartes. Descartes is a substance dualist. He holds that there is a domain or a region of bodily things and a region of mental things. And that these attributes, extension and thinking, sort all entities into these camps. Everything with the attribute of extension is a substance that falls on the bodily side of things, individual substance. And everything with the attribute of thinking is a substance that falls on the mental side of things. Very clear, right? Okay, so I am a mind-body. I am a composite. And I drop a hammer on my foot. Okay? Well, this seems to be fairly straightforward. I drop the hammer on my foot. It causes a depression in my toe. Then a certain excitation of corpuscles down there now cause an excitement of corpuscles running up my nerves here, up my leg. This is actually his example, or close to it. It comes up and it goes into my brain somehow, right? And then, presto changeo, I have a pain. Well, now, a pain's over here. So how is it that this excitation in my nerves comes up here and excites the brain in a certain way, and then I have an experience of pain? This is a big problem. Now, if you think it's been solved, well, think again maybe. I'm not sure this has ever been deeply understood. But if you've got to certainly understand that, of course, brains are part of bodies, right? And over here, minds are of the mental. And a brain is not a mind. So that PBS special on the nature of mind, and they talked about the brain, that was all wrong, right? You do not want to mix these categories. Brains are comprised, they're extended, there are things in it that weigh, different objects that weigh different things, different mass, there are different movements, neural flows, all of that stuff can be understood physically, right? There's energy in there. Over here on the thinking side of things, there isn't any of that at all. So how does it come about that a certain bunch of motions, part of my brain, all of a sudden causes a pain? And if you think this is a problem, then go back the other way. Okay, so now I'm all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to will that my arm raises. Okay, I'm willing it. Oh, look what happened. I had a willing over here on the thinking side of things, and somehow that eventuated in certain movements of particles that finally eventuated in the movement of my arm. But now you've got to see a problem. Minds and bodies are so completely disparate. Two very different kinds of being. How would you possibly connect something together that was so disparate? What could be the mechanism of that relation? Well, Descartes says, well, maybe there's a pineal gland, but of course this, we don't know if he said this tongue-in-cheek exactly or not, but if he's not saying it in tongue-in-cheek, it's a really stupid idea, right? Because a pineal gland would be, by definition, part of the matter, right? The problem is you need something that connects matter to mind. So that can't be a material thing, because then you'd need another thing to connect matter to mind. It can't be a mental thing, because then you need another thing to connect the mental to the material. So that's a big problem. So you have this problem of the disparateness of these two regions. And of course, then you have another problem that's probably even deeper. Well, maybe not as deep, but certainly by our standards. We certainly believe that the physical universe is closed causally, right? That's what we take to be the case. And we believe in the conservation of energy. if somehow my mind caused my hand to raise, then it would seem like there would have to be some energy transfer out of the mental over here to the material, to the bodily, and we would actually violate conservation laws of energy. And we would violate the causal closure of the physical. The idea that for each and every physical event, there is some physical event that causes it, and that each and every physical event can only cause other physical events. So this is a problem. Now, what Descartes gives us is, of course, a way to try to reconcile the new science with the older values, because here, everything is deterministic. But over here on this side, we have purpose. Purpose. Right? We have purpose and determinism. And on this side, we have freedom. But on this side, we don't. Very difficult to see how these connect. Now, we can just say that it's the case. And we can just say that there is some kind of interaction. But of course, just saying it doesn't make it so. Well, okay, so we have a problem of the classic mind-body problem. Really is laid out nicely here by Descartes. And we're going to talk about Spinoza, who answers it in one way. But this mind-body problem is always connectable to the problem of God. Because, of course, if we have a universe that's deterministic and bodily, then how can it be that a purposeful, free God can affect the universe? The same problem of the causal joint that we see in the classic mind-body problem, I've always maintained, is the same problem when we try to connect God to the universe. Okay, Descartes' legacy. He leaves us with this problematic dualistic causal interactionism. We sometimes call Descartes' problem, the problem of the external world. How do we know there is one? Also connected to this is, of course, the problem of the other minds, which can be seen to be a subset of the problem of the external world. And then, of course, the mind-body problem. With Descartes also, we see this turn now to the subject. To find out about God, where do we go? Well, we don't look at the heavens, we look at ourselves deeply, right? Well, there's the idea of perfection. So this turn to the subject has everything to do with the whole development of our thinking since this time. I mean, the notion of a magazine called Self, or even a science called psychology, in the way that's been developed in the last 150 years, could not have happened without Descartes, I would argue. Also with Descartes, we have the problem of foundationalism. Remember I said that he's trying to find an indubitum upon which to erect all other truth claims. And of course, we can certainly argue that the problem of foundationalism has negatively impacted Christian theology, right? Because we're always trying to find foundations for God over on the side that might be foundations for the material order. And it's almost like the deck gets stacked against the Christian theists, because how are we going to go to the so-called foundations in sense perception to argue to this purposeful, free, immaterial, non-corporal being? So the big problem is his dualism leaves us with mental, purposeful freedom somehow conjoined with a materialistic determinism. This view is deeply problematic, but it's a view that's still kind of with us. I mean, I still see students at the university, they go to physics class, they're over here, thinking like a physicist. They go to a literature class, well, then they're over here. But if you think deeply about it, you would have to have some coherent story, right, to hook these things together if you're going to have a coherent view of the universe. And of course, that's what Christian theology is all about, right? It's the ultimate coherent story that is deeply satisfying. Next time we'll go to Spinoza. This is Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt. president of the Christ School of Theology, and I'll be right back.